just wanted to do a quick review for my BMW 1200gs. It is a 2016 and it has 7,200 miles approximately. And I wanted to give you guys an update of what I think about this bike so far. I bought it midsummer, and I was a little bit torn between the KTM and the BMW. The KTM 1290 Super Adventure, and I decided to get this as opposed to the KTM for a couple reasons. I test rode pretty much every adventure bike out there, and when I got on the BMWs, the last bike I was going to test ride, and it was just a whole nother experience, in my opinion. I am not a die-hard BMW guy. I'm not a die-hard KTM guy. I'm pretty neutral. But there was a clear, significant difference between the KTM and the BMW. I just really feel they've refined these bikes over the years, and they've just done a really good job. So, a couple things that I like, a couple things I don't like. So, I guess starting off, well, the first thing you do on a bike is you start it. So, on this one, it has the electronic ignition, so you don't need a key. You just have this key fob here. You have to have that nearby, and then you just press the button. That's very simple. I guess if you lose that, you're kind of out of luck. I guess underneath this seat here, there is a place where you can use an actual key. Let's say if your fob dies or something doesn't work, you can actually use a key underneath that seat. I actually haven't done it. I don't really know how to do it. I'm sure it's in the manual. So one thing I actually don't like is, so this is aftermarket, this screen here. You can see that. And the one thing I don't like is it just comes bare. I imagine you can buy BMWs all geared out, but this one came bare, so I had to put this protective screen on there, because if you crack that light, the screen on the light, you actually have to replace the entire light. You can't just replace this outer shield, which is kind of goofy, in my opinion. So that was the first thing I did, was put a guard there to prevent, you know, rocks from cracking that headlight screen. And then in here, I also added these radiator covers. That's another thing I wasn't really impressed about, was, you know, if you're riding with two guys and the guy's in front of you and his bike spews a rock, it's gonna go right in your radiator and poke a hole in it. So I put those guards in there, you know, just to prevent that from happening, because if you're out in the middle of nowhere and a rock goes in your radiator, you're done for. So these are made by Altrider. Same with this here, and it doesn't change the engine temperature, nothing. I mean, it directs that airflow really well, but protects your radiator. So the other thing I added is these engine guards here. So these guys, you can see I dropped it already, and that was before I had those guards on there. And you know, that engine's actually pretty bulletproof. I was surprised it actually I flipped the bike over on its side downhill, and it was not pretty, but that's all it really did to the bike. And then, you know, right here as well, just a little bit on that guard. But those engine guards are, I would say, 100% necessary if you're going to go off-road, because I've dropped it since. You can see here, and that's what it did to the engine guard. See if it focuses a little bit. Yeah, but you can see on the head right there, nothing happened. and that's exactly what you want. It's probably good to have some pipe guards too. I haven't got to that point, but maybe down the road. It's kind of pretty color, isn't it? So one thing I do like is you know, if you ever have to take this rear wheel off, it's pretty much like a car tire. You've got those 5 bolts there, and you just take them out. Not too hard to do. And the other thing I liked about the BMW as opposed to KTM is the shaft drive. You know, you're concealed here, so you don't have to maintain a chain or anything like that. You're just gonna have to change the fluids every so often, which I kind of like. And that's just me. I know that the new chains, they're that, you know, you don't have to do and worry about maintenance as much, but something about a shaft where it's all concealed, I just kind of like that. Okay, so a couple more things that I like about this bike and dislike about this bike. One thing I've noticed in colder weather, I'm not riding much because it's pretty cold here and there's a lot of ice. But one thing I noticed is with these boxer engines, your feet are directly behind the engine, and that really helps in the cold weather. I don't really notice it in the summer, but in the cold weather I do, because the engine heat goes directly onto your feet, and I just don't have cold feet, so I kind of like that. So the other thing I do like is actually the windscreen here. Now you can adjust it here, and I'm about 5'9", and I really don't have any wind problems, and that means I really don't have I'm not fatigued from the wind. At the end of the day, I can ride all day. It doesn't push me back or anything, and I think really that windscreen does a great job of that. So that's one thing I actually really like about this bike. Other things to note is I have the BMW Side Bags, which are actually, they're over here, and they're really simple to pop right on the side. Let's see. Yeah, I'll put this one on. I'll just show you guys real quick how simple this is. And I probably can do it one-handed. Let me pull this back a little bit. So first thing, you have a hinge here, and then you've got 2 hinges here. You slide that on, pop that in, and it's on. That's on. I've dropped the bike on those side bags, and they still go on really easily. Of course, that's my experience. Other people might have a different experience, but I actually really like these side bags because they're easy to take off and put on, you know. So if you put luggage in there, you just go inside, fill your bags up, and then you're good. I mean, you put them on, it's a matter of seconds. So I really like how, like I said, I think they've perfected a lot on these adventure bikes, and that's why I chose to go with BMW. And this is my first adventure bike, so I don't really have a huge amount of experience with other bikes. And like I said, I'm pretty neutral, so I don't, you know, I'm not diehard BMW, but so far really enjoyed it. My uncle has a KTM 1290, and I've ridden it a little bit. He's ridden my bike, and he actually, as far as just driving down the road, taking corners, he prefers my bike. He says it's more comfortable, easier to handle. This is just on pavement, and he thinks it's streamlined compared to that KTM. But the one thing it does lack compared to the KTM is you don't have all that power as the KTM. That KTM, I think it's got 160 horsepower, and this guy has like 125 or around that. And on a straightaway, I mean, you can tell. I mean, he pulls away and I don't. But that doesn't make this a slow bike. It's just a little bit slower compared to the KTM, but compared to everything else, it's actually really fast. And in my opinion, do you really need all that power? Maybe every once in a while it's great to open up the throttle, but when you're off-road, you're not using 160 horsepower. You're not using 125 horsepower. In fact, on both bikes, when you switch to the enduro mode, you know, it's going to dumb down the power to like 100, which you still won't use that much unless you're really good. So, but just for the average guy, and I think this bike has all you need and more. And sure, on a straight road for a mile, my uncle's gonna pull away on the KTM, but you know, that's okay, because I think the BMW makes up for that in every other aspect of the bike. So really like that. I'll post this video, and you guys can tell me what more you want to see, and I can, you know, go over other things. So there's a lot of things with this bike. So like I said in the beginning, this bike has 7,200 miles approximately, and some of the things I experienced over that time was basically the 3 times I dropped this bike, it had some weird electronic issues which no one really could tell me or justify or explain why. One of the things was, I dropped the bike. It was kind of a hard drop, but didn't affect anything that I could see. Picked it back up, started it up, and then it was telling me that I couldn't use cruise control. I didn't have ABS brakes. It still ran, but it was really weird. And then at one point it wouldn't turn back on, and then it did. I just didn't really understand what was happening. I talked to the dealer about it, and you know, they didn't really give me a good answer. I don't think they really know, because these bikes are so new. And that's one thing you might experience down the road, is with probably anything that's brand new, you're kind of the guinea pig of the bike. And there's just been a couple things that I didn't really, you know, could find the right answer I was looking for as far as when those things happened. Another thing that happened when I did drop it, this hose here coming off the top here, there's a little black hose, and that actually wiggled loose. I think that was actually when I dropped it a couple times, and all of a sudden when I would stop and the bike was at idle, it would just shut off, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized, oh, that hose must be a vacuum hose or something. And you know, I'm not a mechanic, but I connected it, and it seemed to work just fine. So it's a beautiful day out here. I'm at a hangar, so we've got airplanes flying around. Really nice day. So anyways, there's lots to go over. If you guys want to see more videos, let me know. There's a lot of neat features with the electronics. The GPS is probably the best thing I could have added on to this purchase, was this GPS, and I can explain that in other videos. But you've got a lot of options, and you know, I got a hand warmer there, if it focuses. But that's another video, because this video is taking a while. So let me know if you want to see more. But overall, this is a great bike. I think if you're gonna get a top of the line adventure bike, and you want to do a little bit of everything and be king of the road, you're looking at the bike you want to get right now. I mean, this is a really nice bike, and I've had nothing but good times on it.